Apocalypse Rising, nor the battle to the strong, and trials and tribulations. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton. My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today, we are doing a look back at Deep Space Nine's Season 5. It's not a review. It's like revisionist history, kind of, where we look it over. We haven't done one of these yet, so it should be a ton of fun, really exciting. There's 26 amazing episodes. How are you today, Cirroc?
I'm doing good. This is going to be a lot of fun because I think this is a great idea to be kind of reviewing the season and taking a look back each season. And I'm excited to be doing this one.
Yeah, so first and foremost, what I did earlier today, just to get an idea of how much Season 5 spanned, because I think a common theme we're going to see is just how much the show has changed in 5 seasons. The characters developed and all that, the characters, the story, everything that just has developed in the last 26 episodes. So to get an idea, I looked back, what was the first episode of Season 5? I don't know if you happen to have it in front of you, but if not, can you guess? Do you have any idea? Because I had forgotten.
I have it in my notes here. Nice. Apocalypse Rising, I think, is the first episode.
Yes. So that was the episode where the 4 dudes become Klingons. I mean, Worf's already one, but they're changed into Klingons, and they go infiltrate the Klingon Empire to reveal Gowron as a spy. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that feels like so long ago, right?
It does.
Wow.
It feels like a long time ago. And just like the amount of things I think they stuffed into this season, particularly with the growth of all of the characters, we learned so much about each character in this season.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just like the overarching story, like I thought, I would look back at what the first episode was, and it would be like, I don't know, it would be something to the effect of, say, Nor the Battle to the Strong, or Rapture, or The Darkness and the Light, with Nana Visitor, with Kira's character, going after that Cardassian with the screwed up face. But then when I realized it was even that far back, I was like, wow, they've crammed so much change, so much story arc in this, that to think that a season ago they were just talking about suspecting that there may be a changeling infiltration. And since then, the entire storyline has changed. Like, they've infiltrated, they've joined up with the Cardassians, now they're attacking the Federation. I mean, so much has happened. I don't know. I don't really know if we'll find an exact theme for this 5th season, because there are 26 episodes in it that are all very different.
Yeah, that was the other thing I kind of took away from reviewing these episodes, is how different they are. You mentioned trials and tribulations.
Yes.
That being kind of a throwback episode and an homage to the original series. So that was thrown in there. And I remember the publicity on that was huge, because that was, something heavily publicized, and, TV Guide and all of these different outlets were publishing stuff about it. But it's not just that. I mean, there's episodes, for example, for the uniform, where we get a lot of Eddington's storyline.
Yeah.
And Sisko. I mean, so the amount of coverage in this season, I think, really grows the show and the characters in the show to a huge degree. They cover so many topics. The Nor the Battle to the Strong, for example, with Jake's character, I feel like Jake's might have had the biggest growth in this season, where we get to see him kind of attack more adult themes and subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I kind of uh, I'm happy to see about kind of reflecting on this season, the growth of Jake and him being, a journalist, and actually we see him in action as a journalist. So
Mhm.
I think that adds dynamic kind of nuance to my character that wasn't there before, as far
Yeah.
as maturing.
Yeah, like upon looking back at the episodes, because I got to cheat. I got to look back and actually see what episodes there were in season 5, because there's just so many. These are 26 episode seasons back then, and the growth with all the characters. I mean, first and foremost, I agree with you. Jake has the biggest growth, but there are like 2 or 3 Jake and Nog episodes, right? There's In the Cards. There's the one, I don't remember what it's called, where they move in together and they have their squabbles. We'll see that a little later. I'm sure we'll remember which one that is. We have the most recent episodes where now Nog is part of the Defiant and the battle out there, and Jake is staying at home in unfriendly territories and behind enemy lines, basically. And but then I'm scrolling through these episodes. Odo has his first sexual encounter, so Odo becomes a man basically in this season. Quark and Odo have their understanding, their fight and subsequent understanding at the top of the mountain in the ascent, right? Kira has a baby. Like you said, there's the Eddington situation. Lita becomes much more of a character, and she and Rom get married. I mean, that's all in the course of one season. She had a giant arc too. She had only had like 1 or 2 episodes before that, and now suddenly she's got a huge storyline and is a part of the Deep Space Nine storyline. Odo and Kira are growing together. Worf and Dax, they got into a relationship in this season. It feels like they've been going out forever. They have not. They got together. I think it was looking for parmoc in all the wrong places, which was episode 3 of season 5. So in this season, they connected. I mean, how much has happened?
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, it was in this season episode number 7, which is Let He Who Is Without Sin.
Yes.
And that was the Lita episode, breaking up with Bashir on Stex Bajor, Club Med, and with Vanessa Williams.
Yeah.
So we went from literally seeing them break up and having that kind of really cool breakup session to Rom and Lita getting together, and so you do see a huge amount of growth in her character.
That was the lead up to being with Rom.
Oh yeah,
there lead it is. Up.
Yeah. When we got it the first time, thank you though.
Well, I like I said before we started recording, I'm a little sleepy today, so I don't know if my delivery is working today. I guess I'm going to have to say things twice to make sure I understand my own jokes.
And so, just to piggyback off of what we were talking about, even that episode with Odo, I mean, these episodes really feel like a long time ago, and that's the beauty of having 26 episodes in a season. You cover a lot of material. But I was going to bring up things past where Odo, they threw the set back to Turek Nor, and Odo was reliving the time of kind of accusing these people of something that they weren't guilty of, and him having to deal with that kind of trauma that he's been living with, and the kind of blood that he felt was on his hands. I felt like another growth episode. It felt like there were a few episodes that dealt with the station being altered in some way, so it wasn't like just a normal promenade. It was either Terek Nor, or it was gray. It was all gray, carpeting or something. When
Yeah.
certain episodes. So yeah, there was a lot of things happening in this season, and I did enjoy it. And the lead up towards the end also started to become really climactic as well. So not only did they start to cover the basis with character growth and development, but they also plotline turned up the temperature on what was at stake for DS9 and the future of Bajor and the Federations.
You know who also another character growth moment with Odo, I realized at the very end of season 4 was when he got his changeling status taken away, his street cred among the founders, right? And he got it back in this season. So at the very beginning of this season, he's just become a solid, and then he meets Dr. Mora again, and he changes them. So that was only a half a season long that he wasn't a changeling. But when I look back and remember it, it feels like he was a solid for much longer than that. I don't know. Maybe we should just go over every episode very quickly, because I think that's going to be a really good question for the free for all. I want to ask them two things. One is, their favorite episode of season 5, because that's kind of a good standard barometer of where people's heads are at, even though that's not correct English, but it's vernacular, whatever. And the other one is who had the biggest character growth and the biggest character change, and what was most interesting, like, character story arc, because there's so much. So the first one was, let me just check this out. Apocalypse Rising, right? The log line is, with the war between the Klingons, the Federation intensifying, Sisko must make a plan to expose Gowron as a changeling. Odo is still having trouble with being a solid. So yeah, this is just like right when he started being a solid. I think it happened I think that was the cliffhanger kind of thing at the end of season 4. Yeah, I just checked. The final episode of season 4 is called Broken Link. So obviously that's what that means.
Yeah.
And when we reviewed that episode, we had director James L. Conway join us, who was awesome. You remember him well, right?
Yes, I do. And I actually, I remember also that Avery's in a Klingon uniform or outfit with makeup, and I can recall him saying at several different conventions how much he disliked wearing all that stuff. So that was one thing that I definitely walked away with watching this episode. Actually, and another person was Colin, if I'm not mistaken. He's also dressed up in the full Klingon garb. So both of them did not enjoy the experience, and certainly can sympathize with Michael Dorn having to wear that for so many years.
So another thing. Oh, I didn't hear that last thing. What did you say?
No, that was it. I just said,
cool.
They didn't enjoy wearing it.
Yeah. So another thing, so James L. Conway was awesome, really cool guest. Loved having him. It was such a pleasure and a surprise. It's always kind of a surprise when, we ask somebody and they're like, oh yeah, sure, I'd love to. And we're like, oh, great, because we'd love to have you. So let's do it. What a deal. But another one was the second episode of season 5, The Ship. We had Caitlin Hopkins join us. If you remember her, she was the Vorta, who was very convincing. She was very influential. She knew how to influence men in general, but it didn't really work too much on Sisko because he's got mind control and discipline. But she was an amazing guest, and I remember that is one of the episodes that I remember, from my first watch back in the day. Like there are, like a handful, 10, 12, 15 episodes that really stand out. That was one of them because it just kind of gave us that different feeling. You weren't on a station, you were out on some rocky mountain. And we see the changeling die. I don't know. That was a great episode though.
A very good episode, and also her performance, as a Vorta was kind of the only really other good Vorta performance we had seen outside of Jeffrey Combs, who does it so well. But she brought her A game, and I enjoyed her performance. And yes, it was a pleasure to have her on the show.
Yeah, she was awesome. I don't think she's ever back again. I think that was her only episode. Although she is in a Voyager episode. Spoiler, she plays like a Wish Captain Janeway, I think is what it is. There's like the joke about like what I ordered on Wish and what I got, because it's like you never get what you want on wish.com. But it's like some clothing store where you get, I've been suckered by it too. I'm like, whoa, cool, this awesome, warrior shirt. And then I get it, I'm like, this looks trashy. But anyway, like, so she kind of that's a terrible way to say it. It looks different than the picture. And so she and another guy who plays like the fake Tuvok, they kind of look like there's like this meme that's like what I ordered on Wish and what I got, because they're kind of like the, synthetic version of Janeway and Tuvok. It's an interesting episode. But anyway, I think that's the only other Star Trek episode she's in. And then we had Looking for Parmoc in All the Wrong Places. And if you'll recall, that is the one where Quark tries to pursue Grilka. And then Worf like helps him with her by, they got this contraption where Worf's movements can translate into Quark's Batleth skills.
Yeah. And that episode was directed by Andy Robinson.
Right.
So I'm not sure if it was his first time directing, but a lot of first, directors in this episode, sometimes some of them first timers, I think, looking back on this season.
Something really interesting. This is another thing that stood out in that episode. This was the episode, I just looked at the log line, where, quote, O'Brien and Kira grow uncomfortably close together. Where they start, where he's like massaging her inner thigh, and Keiko's like,
her ankles,
and Keiko's like, Miles, get up in there, go up higher on her thigh or whatever. She get her butt's got to be, or whatever. Yeah. I don't remember the specifics, but it was like, dude, Keiko, do you realize what's going on here, man? And she's like, get up in there, Miles, get the oils out.
He was like, go help her out of the tub.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, there was a bunch of stuff that got a little awkward moments there. But it was an unusual situation that they were experiencing. And so I think they played that really well. Those kind of moments were authentic feeling for me. The rubbing of the feet and his uncomfort level was very believable for me. I think Phil Morris, I have Phil Morris written down here in the notes, and I believe he was guest star in this episode.
He must have been, yes. He was a Klingon. Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah, and he's a hilarious actor too as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and that was where Dax finally convinces Worf that there's a spark there. At the end she says a line like, sometimes you have something right under your nose and you don't realize it or something. And he looks and there she is. And so go get him, Worf. But then next episode was Nor the Battle to the Strong, which we all know is your biggie. Our guest was director Kim Friedman, who we've had a couple times before. She's amazing. But this was almost like a Jake Sisko coming out party, right? This is kind of when you're coming out and kind of trailblazing and forging your own path. And you're not just the emissary's son. You're not just that rascally kid. They're giving you kind of your first adult storyline, right?
Yeah, they're giving me a lot to chew on. It's it's a Jake centric episode. When we spoke with Kim Friedman, one of the things that she mentioned concerned her was the voiceover work and some of the heavy scenes. But thankfully, we were able to pull it all off. I think it worked well. It showed a lot of growth in Jake as a person, kind of taking on a new perspective of reality and seeing firsthand kind of the the fight or flight moments, the dangerous moments of life and death that people face in these wartime situations. So definitely a lot of growth for Jake. I was eager to have this as a challenge and get it done. And I think it worked well because there were a lot of scenes there that, show the rigor of battle and how fragile and frail all of us can be under certain circumstances, dealing with emotions and fear.
Remember, that was the episode that also, going along with that, had a lot of day players, right? There were like 4 or 5 people that just, they got 3 to 10 lines in that episode. And boy, they really found some great actors that knocked it out of the park, even with only being on camera for like 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes, some of them. Really impressive. And they kind of had to, because basically there was Jake, there was Bashir, and that's it. So those other actors needed to help carry that episode. Otherwise, it would just be the 2 of you on an island, basically, trying to carry an episode by yourselves. And they did a great job.
Yes. That's the other thing about DS9. Not only do we have the cast, we have the recurring extended cast, and then we have, certain people that are maybe one-off, like in this situation. And even those people deliver A-quality material when it's all said and done. And yes, this episode was full of, and when we had a Bolian in there, that was pretty good. I liked it. I liked his jokes. And we had this moment as well where Bashir shows a lot of courage and becomes kind of a hero and risking himself to go get the generator. So it was kind of it was a big moment for everybody. There was a lot of moments there where people were faced with life or death decisions, and I think that was it came across well in this episode.
Bashir's biggest life or death situation was taking the captain's son with him in a life or death mission. He's like, man, I'm going to be in big. He's going to face some wrath pretty soon. Anyway, so that's definitely a standout episode. The next one was The Assignment. Now, this one was an interesting one. This was kind of one of those little bottle episodes. The log line is: an alien entity has possessed Keiko's body and is holding it hostage until O'Brien completes an assignment for it. Yeah, so this was one of those kind of standalone episodes. It was interesting. For me, it stood out as an opportunity for Keiko, for Rosalind, to show her acting chops, because she never really she basically plays O'Brien's wife. And there's some highs, there's some lows there. She has a lot of things there. But this was her first chance to really stretch that out a bit more, and try something new.
Yeah. And it reminded me of those thrillers like The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, or one of those kind of movies where it's the inside job, and somebody's being tortured and forced to do something. Uh, it was a good display for her. Also, it was a Molly appearance, so we got to
Yeah.
see Hannah, the wonderful Hannah, who's so sweet.
Chewing up the scenery.
Yeah, chewing it up and
Stealing
just
the show.
being adorable. Yeah, being adorable as she always is, and so yeah. But I would, it's not pertinent to any major themes. It's just more of a let's get Keiko some more to do, because she's clearly capable, and she was doing movies at that time, like crazy. So I'm pretty sure they were like, "Hey, we have this really talented actress, and she comes in for one or two lines. Let's give her more to do," which I'm glad they did.
Good point. We're going to take a super quick break. Malissa Longo is going to join us for this second segment. And we got a lot more to cover. This is going to be so much fun. This is so much fun, actually. And we'll be right back on the seventh rule, if you can believe that.